Welcome to the Explainer. Today, we're not just staring at data, we are stepping straight into a tactical mission briefing for a high-stakes cyber defense operation. Based on some incredibly detailed project reports and vulnerability assessments, we're going to break down exactly what it takes to lock down a severely compromised system. Okay, let's dive right in.
So, how do you actually secure a network that was literally built to be hacked? That's the ultimate question we're answering today. Our primary target for this simulated 4-week mission is a virtual machine known as Metasploitable 2. Now, if you aren't familiar with it, this is essentially a digital playground that's been deliberately riddled with vulnerabilities, backdoors, and legacy software. It is a total nightmare for security, but honestly, it's the perfect training ground for a cyber defense operation.
Phase 1. The briefing and the squad.
You know, every successful operation needs a really clear directive, and ours is straightforward but monumental. We need to comprehensively assess and completely harden this highly vulnerable network. And to pull this off, the project outlines a specialized 5-person cyber defense squad. You've got Person 1, the architect, setting up the lab. Person 2, the recon specialist, mapping the network. Person 3, the intel officer, scanning for weaknesses. And Person 5, the tactical auditor, testing the final defenses. But for this explainer, I want you to step directly into the action-oriented role of Person 4, the combat engineer. Your job? Take the intelligence, seal the cracks, and build a fortress.
The digital blueprint created by the architect lays out our battlefield perfectly. We're operating on a host-only NAT network. Over on one side, we have the Kali Linux machine. That's our attacker. On the other side, sitting right in the crosshairs, is our primary target. Metasploitable 2 at IP address 192.168.56.103. There's also a Windows 10 target in the mix, but the source notes confirm it's highly secure right out of the box, so our engineering efforts are going to be entirely focused on that vulnerable Linux machine.
Moving on to Phase 2, scouting the target network.
Before we can even think about building our defenses, we need to know exactly where the doors and windows are wide open, right? Well, the Nmap scan results from our recon specialist are genuinely terrifying. The recon revealed a staggering 18 open ports on the target. We're looking at a massive attack surface here. There's a known malicious backdoor in the VSFTP 2.3.4 service. There's an active root bind shell just listening on port 1524. The MySQL database root account has literally no password, 0, and the entire root file system is exported and readable via NFS to anyone on the network. The target is just entirely exposed, offering unauthenticated root access right out of the gate.
Phase 3. Uncovering critical weaknesses.
Now, knowing the ports are open is one thing, but we have to classify the exact threat levels, 10.0. In the world of cybersecurity, the Common Vulnerability Scoring System, or CVSS, maxes out at 10.0. It's the absolute highest, most critical threat level possible. It represents a vulnerability that is trivial to exploit and leads to total system compromise. And yeah, our intel officer found it on our target network.
When our intel officer deployed Nessus for a deep dive vulnerability assessment, the severity breakdown was pretty alarming. A massive slice of the environment is totally dedicated to critical and high-severity threats. Specifically, 5 critical vulnerabilities and 2 high vulnerabilities were flagged for immediate, urgent attention.
So what exactly earned that devastating 10.0 CVSS score? Well, one of the most glaring issues discovered was the Remote GUI Control Service, the VNC server. It was configured using an extremely weak default password. And what was that password? Literally just the word password. I mean, you can't make this up. This grants an attacker instant graphical root access to the machine as if they were physically sitting right in front of the keyboard.
And right behind that one, with a CVSS score of 9.8, the intel officer detected an active root backdoor listener on port 1524. This is a bind shell backdoor. It's an extreme risk because it lets any unauthorized remote user connect and execute arbitrary shell commands as root, completely bypassing any normal authentication whatsoever. Just one click and the system is theirs.
Phase 4. The hardening phase.
All right, the recon is done. The vulnerabilities are mapped. This is where you, the combat engineer, really step up. The time for observation is completely over. It's time to take action, seal those cracks, and fortify the fortress. Here is your chronological hardening execution plan.
First, we tackle legacy software by updating packages and the OS where possible. Second, we systematically close down those exposed, unnecessary ports using host-based iptables firewalls. Third, we ruthlessly enforce strong password policies across all services. And finally, to make this whole thing efficient and repeatable, you compile all these fixes into an automated shell script named harden.sh.
Let's pivot from the problem to the solution. Remember that insane 10.0 VNC vulnerability? You tackle that head-on. The weak default password is wiped out entirely and replaced with a complex, strong random string using the VNC password command. But you actually go a step further. You modify the configurations to bind the VNC service strictly to localhost, which means it can now only be accessed through highly secure, encrypted SSH tunnels.
Next up, you target that CVSS 9.8 bind shell backdoor on port 1524. You track down the persistent listener entry in the inet.conf file and just comment it out so it absolutely can't start on boot. Then, you hunt down the active session using the lsof command and forcefully kill the process. Finally, the firewall is updated to ensure that port is dead and locked for good.
The visual evidence of all your hard work is crystal clear in the new host-based iptables configurations. Looking at the post-hardening port statuses, telnet is closed. The bind shell backdoor, dead. Dangerous services like Samba, NFS exports, and Tomcat are now strictly filtered and restricted to the administrative subnet. Unauthorized traffic is systematically dropped right at the perimeter.
Phase 5. Proving the fortress secure. Okay, so you've built the walls, but do they actually hold? We bring in Person 5, the tactical auditor, who fires up the Metasploit framework to actively try to hack back into the system. The results? Well, before you started, the system had 5 critical and 2 high vulnerabilities. After your hardening execution, 0. Look at that mitigation efficacy. 100% mitigated across the board. The transport encryption is fully secured, the access backdoors are completely removed, and the credential quality is totally locked down.
100% mitigated and verified. As the combat engineer, you took a highly vulnerable, outdated digital playground, a system literally designed from the ground up to fail, and you methodically transformed it into a certified, secure bastion. It is a massive, massive success for the defense squad.
But you know, I want to leave you with a final thought to ponder. You successfully brought those critical vulnerabilities down to 0 today, which is amazing. But tomorrow brings brand new exploits. As attack surfaces constantly evolve, is a network ever truly finished being hardened? Or is cyber defense simply a continuous, endless cycle of scouting, uncovering, and fortifying? Keep that in mind as you continue exploring the fascinating world of network security. Until next time, keep learning and stay secure.